Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 181 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. And we're going back a little bit in this one. We're going back to the 80s, Tim.
Yes, and this episode's brought to you by Excedrin Migraine. When you have a splitting headache,
Yeah.
literally,
Yes.
reach for an Excedrin Migraine.
Yeah, or it feels like, your head just wants to explode one of these days, and it's, wonder, and then and it's also kind of those people that instead of like living on the wild side, they like to live on the iron side,
That's right.
And if you haven't guessed yet, of course, it's Scanners from 1981.
This is another one that I had not seen, believe it or not. I need to turn in my horror card, but I've been trying to make a concerted effort to go back and see some of these really famous horror movies that for some reason or another just slipped through my grasp. So Scanners was one I ran across.
Yeah, and this was one of those from my early, horror watching on cable days. And I remember, of course, the famous or infamous, depending on how you want to, whatever kind of choice words you like to use, for the exploding head sequence that everyone knows about. But that's what got me to want to see it, because they actually showed it in the commercial on cable. And I remember seeing it. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? I'd never seen a head explode before. So, of course, I had to watch the movie. And I watched it a couple times back when I was younger, but, I didn't remember it as well as I thought. So watching it again, it was, I wouldn't say, as it went on, I kind of remembered, it came back to me. But, I forgot how much I really liked it and how good it was. So this will be a fun little discussion of it.
Yeah, and speaking of the head exploding scene, that's one scene that I'd seen in, just about every horror documentary that you see about horror movies has that scene in it. And
right.
So I knew about the scene. I knew all about that just from pure pop culture and watching horror docs, but I just never seen the movie. So it was kind of neat to be able to finally see it in the proper context and everything.
It was even referenced in Wayne's World, the movie.
Yeah.
So, this is a scene that you probably knew without knowing what movie it was from. You just knew that it was from some horror movie. But
yeah. All right, well, let's get right into it. This is our first chop. All right, Brian, I'm not going to talk about it right now, but I did watch Scanners 2.
I know. I was thinking maybe we should have saved this for a summer slaycation, because there's 3, right, total. I think
there's actually 4. There's a Scanners. I can't remember. There's another. Yeah, there's actually another direct-to-video 4th one after Scanners 3. So
so we could have done a slaycation on it.
We could have. Yeah. So I will talk about Scanners 2 after we talk about Scanners 1.
Yeah, but we'll go back.
Well, kind of a mini slaycation.
Yeah.
But the ones I watched some crazy stuff, Brian. So I watched the first one up. I watched. I'll stick with the horror for now. I watched the RESONATOR MISKATONIC U. This is on Full Moon, and this is one of their it's one of their original series, and it's basically a tribute to Stuart Gordon, because they even have a little memoriam type thing at the front of the show. But this is a series, and it is the son of the doctor in From Beyond is kind of resurrecting the whole resonator experiment from Beyond and trying to rebuild it. And so it's got elements of the Reanimator, it's got elements of From Beyond. It's very reminiscent of those. The effects are actually pretty good. And if you just like that Stuart Gordon universe type stuff, I think you'll really like this one.
Yeah.
The first episode's, a little bit of setup and stuff, so I want to watch another episode before I really give my full review of whether I think it's worth it or not. Although I will say, just based on the first episode, I really enjoyed it, and if you like, if you like those Stuart Gordon movies, you should like this.
Nice.
The other one I watched was.
Yeah, you and Cone with this one already. Now you got it. Now you making me want to see it just so I know what the heck you guys are talking about.
So Netflix comes out. It's the #1 movie on Netflix right now.
Oh my God, why? Is that are they having a run of movies that they couldn't make?
I don't. Well, I know now why. It's called Deadly Illusions. Now, this is not a horror movie. really. It's kind of, I'd say, more of a thriller.
Hmm.
But I had to watch it because somebody on one of the horror groups was posting about how it was the worst movie he'd ever seen. Another person was like, absolute garbage. And then they were talking about, as soon as she started buying bras for her nanny, I had to turn it off. And I was like, that makes me want to turn it on right there because I've got to see what's going on here.
Yeah,
so,
what does that mean? Yeah.
I don't know. So this stars either Dermot Mulroney or Dylan McDermott. I can't figure out which one.
Or Dermot McDillett.
Yeah, one of them is in there, and Kristen Davis from Sex and the City is in there, and this movie is like, so you know how there's been parodies of like the Lifetime movies.
Yeah,
This is what it seems like it would be, but it's not a parody. That's the problem. It's literally a Lifetime movie on Netflix, and I don't know. It is so ludicrous. Like, I could imagine. Like, I loved it. I thought it was. I loved it in an ironic way because it's so hysterically bad that there's something charming about it, and it takes itself so seriously. And this would be the perfect movie for a watch party. Oh my gosh, a watch party. Hands down, this would be a riot.
Oh my god, we might have to do that.
I would love to do a watch party for this because even though it's not horror, I would still I'd bend the rules a little bit for this romantic thriller. It's oh my god, just the Dermot Mulroney jokes alone would carry it.
Yeah, and back to that, I kind of, it's so funny every time we bring him or them up. I have this vision of like this, almost like something like from one of those old like Warner Brothers cartoons, with like the antics going on, but like a cartoon Tim, and a bubble pops up for his head, and then something, and he can't figure it out, and then like the slot machine of Dermot Mulroney and Dylan McDermott faces, and like their names go scrolling through, and it goes like ding, 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 and whatever comes up is what we call this guy.
I called him Delbert in the Kim and Kat chat. I called him Delbert Mulroney.
Maroney. That's close enough. I mean, I think that's the closest you've ever got. I don't know which was the one that we thought was funny in the Thanksgiving one where he was all upset with his pie and his turkey.
Oh yeah, that was
Dermot Mulroney, right?
That was Dermot Mulroney, yeah. But it is Dermot Mulroney. I'm just kidding, but
no, I know.
But yeah, so this one, it's about, and I'm not gonna tell you much about it, but a author, Kristen Davis plays this author that writes these thriller novels, and she's kind of made a living off these trashy thriller novels, and she's kind of decided she's not going to do anymore. She's just going to live off the royalties forever, and her publisher is trying to get her to do one more book in the series, and she just doesn't have time unless she hires a nanny. So she hires this young, hot, blonde nanny to take care of the kids. And that's the setup. And you probably know where it's kind of going from there, but it's not exactly what you think. There's a little bit of a twist to it, and it's ridiculous. It's so over the top. Oh my god. But yeah, if you want just a good laugh, like get you a beer, get you some wine, get you settled down, and watch Deadly Illusions. Even the name, why did they even name it that? It's like such a parody. Oh my gosh. But it had
to have like a different name at one point, right? Also known as, it's also known as Unchangeable, because I don't know what that said.
Well, my AKA was Sex and the Sitter.
See, I like that one. Oh, here's the thing. Once again, Italy comes through. In Italy, it's called Illusione Mortale. Now that sounds
cool.
Like right? That sounds kind of cool.
Illusione Mortale.
Or in the United Kingdom, it's just called Grace.
But I keep waiting for like one of them to turn to the camera and go, "Gotcha." We were just kidding. This is a parody of Lifetime.
But they don't.
They
That's
don't.
the illusion, Tim, and it's deadly.
But anyway, so moving right along to some more non-horror, Brian, you got to see the entire 4-hour plus Justice League Snyder Cut. We have to delve into this because we're nerds. I know it's not horror,
in
but
one sitting, no less. I mean, we took a break,
Yeah.
because we went at one point we ordered some food and we had to walk Obi, so we took the break there, about like 40-minute break, but pretty much watch it through. And I have to tell you, it's like, I know there's been like some mixed things. I think most of it's been positive. I'm definitely in the positive camp. I really liked it, and I've always been definitely more of a Marvel guy, especially with these movies. I wasn't crazy, about Man of Steel. I loved the Wonder Woman. I loved the Wonder Woman. I mean, the second one obviously wasn't as good, but I loved the first one. I was okay. I was kind of like torn on Batman vs Superman. I thought it was pretty good, and I definitely loved the when Wonder Woman came in. I was Suicide Squad. I was kind of like, it's all right, of course, but Harley Quinn stole that one. But the original Justice League, I remember actually, that's a thing. I don't remember much. And I saw it in the theater, and it was a bad theater experience. One of those bad experiences to begin with, where it was like, I remember I was I had allergies or a cold or something, and they cranked up the heat in there. So I was just like constantly hot and just uncomfortable. And the movie wasn't like good enough in my mind to distract me. And I thought like I didn't really care for Steppenwolf. So I liked what they did in this one, where they made him look a lot cooler. They added a lot of cool like side and subplots to it. I thought it was just overall a better superhero movie, And I like that they expanded Cyborg, which I think didn't make as much of an impression on me the first time I saw it, but in this version I seem to really get into his character a lot, and I really liked it. A lot of people are saying like that, like the cool little, which I won't spoil for those who haven't seen it yet, but there's a little an extra little epilogue tack on at the end, and I was like, okay, that wasn't necessarily, even though it was kind of a cool scene, probably wasn't necessary, especially now that you're not going to get fulfillment of that tease. But overall, though, I actually really liked this version, and it did not seem like 4.5 hours or 4 hours and 2 minutes, whatever it was. Did not seem like that to me, because it went by really fast, actually, for me. I mean, I looked at it, I'm like, oh my God, we're like 2.5 hours into this already. But yeah, I thought it was good, and I actually thought I was always on the camp that I was definitely not a. Once I saw him in the role, I really liked Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne Batman. In this, I thought it was even just seemed better, his character overall. So I was definitely not one of those people that had a big problem with him in it. I mean, still, I think overall my favorite is still going to be Michael Keaton, But yeah, I mean, I actually really like this. I'm going to probably watch it again at some point. I mean, it's hard to carve 4 hours again. I mean, we literally timed it right, but when
you
right
can watch the black and white version.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I don't know if I like to sit through that version of it. I don't know. I kind of like the colors in it. I mean, I'm all for artistic impressions of things, but I kind of like the cool colors in this, But yeah, I don't know. I overall thought it was really fun. And actually, you know what's funny? After I got so invested in the story, it didn't bother me, the whole 4.3 aspect ratio deal. At first, I was like, oh, this is going to annoy me. But I got so wrapped up into it that by the end of it, I forgot. Didn't even notice it anymore.
Yeah, well, it's not pan and scan. I mean, he's showing every bit of the frame, so that helps it. That helps the annoyance factor. Yeah, you're not getting stuff cut off. That's what really annoys me about 4.3. But I haven't finished it. Full disclaimer, I'm about 2.5 hours in, but I can already tell you I like it way better than the theatrical cut. I mean, it's got so much backstory, and it actually makes sense. A Justice League movie, it almost has to be 4 hours long to give each character their due. And I thought he's done a great job of, making you understand why all these heroes how they were got together. So, Cyborg has a ton more origin story.
Yeah, which that's to me, that was one of the biggest improvements that I don't see enough being talked about, actually.
Yeah.
Was how cool his character became and his backstory and his arc,
Yeah, so I could already tell you, even only halfway through it, I could already tell you I like it way better than the original. And I know, I can't remember the guy's name, but DC has tapped a new guy to head up their DC Universe type vision. And I can't remember his name. I think his last name is Lee. but I can't remember his first name. But he is basically going to be kind of the new DC showrunner in terms of the cinematic universe. So I'm really hoping for good things, because they've basically said Zack Snyder's out. I mean, he's not going to get to make the rest of his trilogy, which I'm not a huge Zack Snyder fan. I'm going to be honest. I don't necessarily like the direction he took the DC cinematic universe. I just think it's just too dark, and I don't think audiences want that level. I mean, Marvel's just hit it bang square on the head. They make the movies fun.
Yeah, theirs was like they have the perfect balance.
Yeah, and the DC movies they might be cool from a comic book level, but they're not fun. You know, Wonder Woman was the closest one that actually came close to being fun, and I think that's why that one was such a big hit. Yeah, and I think that's kind of the direction they need to go. I'm not saying they got to go campy or corny about it, but Marvel's found a good balance on how to do it and still make it like appeal to comic book fans. So
yeah. Well, when you see the whole, I have a funny question to ask you, but technically, since you haven't seen the whole Justice League yet, it's sort of partly towards the end tease, one of the end scenes, the epilogue, so to speak. I have to ask you a funny question, but I'll have to wait till you see it, and then I'll ask you on next week's show, because I think you'll get a laugh out of it as well. So,
all right, the next one I'm gonna skip over this, Brian, and we'll talk about Halloween Horror Nights for last. But CREEPSHOW 2, we got Shudder was gracious enough to send us screeners for the first 2 episodes of the second season of CREEPSHOW. And man, you guys are in for a treat. Like,
yeah, we can't really talk about the plot of them.
Yeah, we can't.
But oh my God, let me tell you, if you were fans of the original, the original film, and even I'd say, like, you know, if you're also like a Tales from the Crypt fan, like, you know, which is, of course, you know, there's that comparison. But I have to say, these first, like, there were 4 stories amongst the 2 episodes, and every one was good. And the first one especially has, like, one story that I think is going to blow everybody away. Actually, 2, technically, right? I guess both of those.
Yeah, both of those.
I mean, they're all good. But yeah, there's just, I can't wait. I mean, I loved the first season, but I know there were some people out there that did have some criticisms, like, well, it wasn't the same as I mean, I think they did a great job, but, like, I think for those people that criticized the first one, they're, at least in the first 2 episodes, they're going to get everything they wanted in the season 1 in these. So
yeah, I was very pleased, and I was one that I had some criticisms of season 1, to be quite honest. I mean, I liked it overall, but there were definitely some episodes that, to me, did not feel like CREEPSHOW and really didn't even feel like EC Comics. Whereas in these first 2 episodes, I thought they really hit the tone a lot better than they did in the first season.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I think I can't wait till it airs, because I can't wait to see, like, all the different social media, like, responses to it, you know, because I think everyone's gonna have, like, a lot of fun with. And there's one episode in particular out of the 4 that I think will probably get some of the most, like, discussion, just because of the kind of, like, meta angle they take on it. And it's gonna be a fun one.
Okay, Brian, so let's talk about Halloween Horror Nights, because we have the first preview, maybe. I mean, this is rumor, this is speculation.
Yeah, they call them speculation maps. So I guess we should preface that quickly with it. This is the site I got this from. It's Horror Nightmares. So what happens with Halloween Horror Nights? It's got such a following. And obviously last year once COVID hit, like, these things stopped. But usually the progression of Halloween Horror Nights is usually February they announce a house, which they did, and we'll get to that in a second. But what then happens is then there's, like, they start to reveal them slowly, but there's also things that leak out, and there's speculation maps that come out. And this one, I think this speculation map is probably going to be somewhat accurate because of what was announced last year and what was, like, kind of leaked out last year, and what actually did come out, because there was, like, a mini event that really didn't call it Halloween Horror Nights. It was just they put a couple of houses out there, and they had some merch that kind of teased some of this. So I think this speculation map is probably, even at this early stage, probably more accurate than the previous early speculation map. So we're just prefacing that with saying this is just this speculation map. They call it version 1.0. So this is just like, we're going to go through it and kind of give little comments on it, but granted, do not hold this as gospel because this is nowhere near confirmed as 100% or anything like that.
Yeah.
Except one. One for sure, we know.
So let's go through these. Let's just go through these one at a time, Brian. You take one and I'll take one, and we'll just kind of talk about it. But okay, so first up is one that I am super excited about. If it occurs.
Yeah. And now, granted, let me just preview this, Tim. This was one that they had a version of it last year, so that's why a lot of people put this one on the speculation map.
Okay, so this one's probably you could place your bets on this one being there.
Yeah.
The Bride of Frankenstein lives, and I love when Universal goes back to its Universal monster roots, and Bride of Frankenstein being arguably the best Universal horror monster film, in my opinion. So I am super excited to see what they do with the Bride of Frankenstein. This would be awesome. The only thing better would be a Creature from the Black Lagoon house.
But they're saving that to rip you off in the ride department.
That's
for
right.
Epic Universe.
Yeah. So.
Which, of course, is back on. I guess we'll go from left to, just go across, and then we'll go the second level. So the next one is, and oh my God, I hope this this one, because I've always while we love the original houses, I also love the iconic property houses, and we got lucky as we got the Halloween 4 one when we went the last time, but this one is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, of course, if this is accurate, we don't know if it's the original one, if it's the remake. I mean, a part of me thinks it would be the original, but I could be wrong. I'm not sure. It could be just a mashup of all three, or kind of take that property and kind of make its own little story. But of course, there is the prequel. I'm sorry, the sequel coming that takes place years later, which all this news is coming out on it. But wherever it is, I want to go through a haunt where I'm walking through and Leatherface is popping out everywhere, or the family. Imagine you go to the table sequence.
Yes.
I mean,
and what's better in a haunt than a chainsaw? I mean, every good haunt has a chainsaw. Yeah.
Right. And so to me, this is surprise. Even though it's a standard IP house, this one has got me really anticipated. So I'm kind of hoping this one really comes true.
The next one up here is an original, and this is a callback to I'm pretty sure this was an original house before.
Right, yeah.
This is Revenge of the Tooth Fairy. I believe there's a popular house that was based on the Tooth Fairy, because I've seen the POVs of it. Yeah. But this is basically a sequel house to that one, and kind of rightly so, because this being the 30th anniversary, we kind of anticipated you would get a lot of callbacks to previous houses and things, so I could definitely see this one being one of the originals.
Yeah, and this is kind of filled with a lot of that. If you look, almost every house has some kind of retro-y theme to it. Even the newer stuff, like a Texas Chainsaw Massacre, obviously it's an old movie, so it's in there. And the next one's another one, which this one sounds really cool, because Tim and I have always been fascinated with Halloween Horror Nights, but of course, as you know, we didn't get to go until 2 years ago. So, but we did read that great book that goes through the history of it, and I always now we're saying, I wish I would have went to those earlier ones, where they had the icons. And this next house, which has been rumored for a while, it's called HHN Icons Captured. So, of course, there was that one Jack, which was that crazy clown. Then they made backstories to them all, and they had, the caretaker. And if you read the book, that fantastic book, we got to get the author to that on. We got to see if he'll come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they made this great, history of it. And so that, it seems like all those characters will come back in one house, which probably for fans who've been going every year is probably going to be incredible. For us, it's like a different kind of incredible. It's we'll finally get to see these icons that we've only heard about. So yeah, this one I hope really comes to fruition.
Another original one they're rumoring is Welcome to Scary, which is Scarey. That's another, if you've read the Halloween Horror Nights history, that's one of their towns that they created. Horror in the Heartland, so I guess you could kind of see maybe a country vibe to this one.
Yeah.
And also a throwback to previous Halloween Horror Nights houses.
And next one, I have a feeling this one, just by the name of it, is this year's Seeds of Extinction, which is the one we will not take your kids into the first time.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we should give them a softer one first before they take this one. This one is The Wicked Growth, Realm of the Pumpkin. So again, I see that kind of weird pumpkin patch theme thing where probably pumpkin head people will come jumping out at you really loud, and you'll really claustrophobic. That's what I'm anticipating with this kind of house. And basically for Tim and I, that's bring it on. We can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah. But so maybe not for your kids right away.
I'm kind of hoping it's like an expansion of the scare zone they had when we went, which was that pumpkin themed scare zone. Remember?
Oh yeah. Maybe that's what that is.
Yeah.
Which was still amazing. That was the coolest scare zone. The Harvest it was called.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I love that one. Next up, another original puppet theater captive audience. So I guess this is your puppet clownish type haunt that they typically have. I don't know if this one is a callback to earlier Halloween Horror Nights, but based on all the other originals, it probably has some connection, I would think.
Yeah, I think this is going to be like nightmare inducing though. just the look of it. Like not in a haunt way like I'm startled and jumping out like scare kind of freak out, just seeing creepy puppets all over the place. Not something, I'm that's like soothing.
Yeah.
Let's say, right? Next one, this will be interesting. I kind of like, I love this series, so I think it'll be pretty cool to see, especially if they have like the bent neck lady, and that's The Haunting of Hill House. Of course, that was that amazing series with, by Mike Flanagan, and they had some really creepy imagery in that. And if they do it right, and you're kind of walking through the Hill House, I think this could be one of the sleeper hits. No pun intended there. Of the series, because this one just has the elements like built in to be creepy. Just like walking through the halls and.
You could do very subtle horror in this one, with ghosts like passing by in the background, and
yeah. But I tell you, that bent neck lady's gonna freak me out.
Yeah.
I would, even though of obviously people who've seen it know who's that really is, but I'm just calling it by the name.
The next one is the confirmed house, so we know this one for a fact will be there, and that is Beetlejuice, which I am so excited for because over the past few years, Universal's been doing like at least one like not so scary house that's more fun. Like they did Ghostbusters, they did Stranger Things. So this kind of fits into that mold, and like this would be a great starter house for the kids, I think.
Oh yeah, I think this would have to be the number one house we get them into, because there'll probably be some I could see a lot of jump scares of things popping up, but like to a point where it would induce pure laughter and giddiness, Yeah. And not like the Seeds of Extinction. I mean, that was disturbing me and not because I was scared. It was just loud and in your
it was
face.
Intense.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then like the selfie stick I was using to see over crowds because I'm short, got lost in there. It was just it was like the one there were two major miscues in that vacation. One was deciding to play volleyball the day of, and second one making that the first house, thinking how scary could plants be. So
as it turns out, horrifying.
Yeah, it's horrifying to them. And then the final speculated house, of course, I mean, we just got finished discussing it, so you know how excited we are, and that's CREEPSHOW. And that could be anything, in all honesty. That could be one storyline they take. It could be the show. It could be the movie. It could be amalgam of everything, and it's just, or it could be what I'd love to see, actually, if you think about it, is a completely original story, but with the creeper as the host to it,
That would be cool, yeah.
Like that, just make it fun like CREEPSHOW is, and creepy and scary, but completely an original story arc into the house, which I'd like to see, which would be kind of cool.
Now the scare zones also look pretty cool. They're rumoring, again, this is all rumor, and these are the ones I feel like maybe could change the most. 30th anniversary zone.
But that's that basic section. Remember, right in the front, I think, where it's kind of always they have some kind of
Oh yeah, they just got signs up basically of all their previous stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like that. I mean, they do it. It's cool, but I think that's this is it's always that. I think it's that most basic section, and where I'm looking at where they have it located though. And it's kind of right where I was kind of describing, in that section.
Yeah, I bet you that is what that is. Yeah. The next one they have listed is an original, which we don't know yet. So it's kind of a placeholder. Yeah. Then they have, interesting enough, they have a CREEPSHOW scare zone, which is kind of odd that they would have a scare zone and a haunt of the same IP, but we'll see. We'll see. That's definitely subject to change.
Yeah, unless that's where they make it totally immersive. You have the whole. like a section that looks all like in the world of Creepshow, and then the house is located
Now,
in
that
there,
would
too.
be cool. That would be really cool.
So that it's not far off. Who knows what they? I mean, if they, like maybe it could be one of those things where they like literally they had the Creepshow house scheduled for 1 year later, and then they had the Scare Zone first, and now
So they
that
decided
we
to
skipped
combine
a
'em.
year,
Yeah.
they just decided to combine them, and I'd be all for that, like a total immersive area, like it would be cool, especially because it's so variety of Creepshow. You could do so much with it.
Yeah. The next one up is Terra Cruentus, which is this. Terra was the land that one of the the evil fairy tale Halloween horror icon ruled over. So that one's kind of deals with that one's gonna be like kind of a wicked fairy tale type thing. And then the last one they got listed here is a Best of Scare Zones mashup, which that could be kind of cool too, depending on how they do it.
Yeah, and that one's located where the Chucky one was last year on that main street when you go down. So that and that's like right around the corner from the 30th anniversary zone. So I have a feeling that'll be, and that's like right in the front. So right when you walk in, whichever way you go, you're gonna get hit with that 30th anniversary or the best of kind of thing, which makes a lot of sense strategically, I think. Because especially after the year everyone's had, like people are dying to go back to this thing and celebrate the 30th anniversary of this event correctly. And so I think that's a really smart move because kind of gets you, whichever which way you head into this event, you're kind of getting that. If you go up right straight when you walk in, you get that the 30th anniversary zone. If you go the other way, you get the best of Scare Zone mashups, which could have God knows what in it. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, I just saw here. I was kind of reading through some of the articles. Puppet Theater Captive Audience was confirmed last year for the 2021 season.
Oh, okay.
So this one,
good.
that one is official. Puppet Theater.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. So
we got two confirmed for sure, and one I'd say 90% confirmed, which is that Bride of Frankenstein one.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So so that was Halloween Horror Nights. Again, we'll have more about that as we get more houses confirmed.
Because we do plan on going this year. We plan on going back, providing that the pandemic has subsided by then and everything is back to somewhat normal. I know it's still not going to probably be 100% normal at that point, but it'll probably be a lot closer. It'll be I'm sure. I still think masks will be required and social distancing. They may have some kind of new kind of pulse thing,
which actually is better for a haunt. I mean, I
think so.
That's much better than the conga line because I hope they pulse it. Now, granted, that means the waits are probably going to be insane, but if you're doing the RIP tour, it doesn't matter. Which
we plan on doing again because I think I'll tell you that made everything work because you're spending a lot of money and those things, it gets so crowded. If you don't get to experience every house that you want to, there's kind of a jip. But also that RIP tour is so much fun. It was just it had a ball, just getting to, you drink, you get that center stage for that show, which they didn't announce, but I assume it's that same show unless they do something completely different. It says that there's a fountain show there, which was never I don't think they had that for the horror nights previously. I think it was just for the regular nights at Universal. And but the stadium show, I forgot what it was called, but that was that dance group. I'm wondering if they're gonna have if they'll come back or their contract expired, or who knows what they'll do. I don't. You wonder with COVID. We don't know what was affected. Who knows if the dance group is in existence anymore?
Right? Yeah, you're right.
But it just may have been hard to continue and to prepare for an event of that kind. So I don't know. But either way, I'm sure they'll put something in there that's really cool. And that show was pretty neat. I'm not trying to knock that show. I'm just, I'm wondering if they went to somewhere else on it. But yeah, our plan is to go again. And of course, we'll make sure we'll try and give updates along like we did last year because that was fun. And we'll do, of course, a recap show and a preview show, and we'll do all this kind of fun.
Yeah,
so be fun. Just no volleyball this year.
No volleyball
or plants.
Ruled out.
Or plants. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Scanners. 1981, directed by David Cronenberg, starring Jennifer O'Neill as Kim Obrist, Stephen Lack as Cameron Vale, Patrick McGowan as Dr. Paul Ruth, Lawrence Dane as Braden Keller, Michael Ironside as Daryl Revick, and Robert A. Silverman as Benjamin Pierce. A scientist sends a man with extraordinary psychic powers to hunt others like him. And like I said, Brian, at the top of the show, this is one I knew the iconic head exploding scene. I'd never seen this movie. I knew the premise of it. I knew that people could like scan and blow other people's heads up, but I didn't really know the extent of the powers. And man, I really like this one. It's kind of considered one of David Cronenberg's weakest movies, if you look at it critically. But I love all his stuff, and this one was... I enjoyed every minute of this one. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, no, I mean there's a lot of movies that kind of took some stuff from this over the years that probably doesn't, and this probably doesn't get the credit for some of the inspirations to it. But what I loved about it is it had this like gritty feel to it, but still like if you think about it, it could have been made later, almost like later 80s. It was early 80s, but it could have been like, I think later 80s, the quality of this. I mean, it was, and it just had some cool like elements that, that were pretty shocking at the time. And I thought were like, some really good gore in it that like was used so properly, like when it needed it, like it didn't overdo it like constantly. He picked and chose his moments for it. And I think to quote the old knight in Last Crusade, he chose wisely. Yeah. So. Well,
all of his stuff, that I've watched has this grittiness to it, and I kind of called it, when I was texting you, I called it the David Cronenberg touch. He's got like this, some way he can make it creepy through its grittiness. I don't know that other movies, even from the same time period, maybe I don't feel the same level of creepiness from.
You just feel like, okay, this is from that time, and that's it.
Right.
You don't get that kind of like,
But there is something, if you look at some of his films like Shivers, which I talked about because I got the Blu-ray recently, Rabid, The Brood, Dead Zone, The Fly, of course. I mean, all of those have like this underlying intangible creepiness to them that I don't see sometimes with even the movies in the same time periods. I can't just blame it on, all those movies back then were gritty and seemed scarier. It's not that. There's another underlying thing. It's some kind of directorial touch that he has that makes these more realistic or scary or something. I don't know. I was enthralled with it. The other thing I thought about, Brian, is, speaking of the Dead Zone, it definitely brought back some strong Stephen King vibes because, Stephen King's got this whole mythos around the Institute that with the Firestarter, and then there was that the more recent books he's done where basically there's some kind of corporation that's harnessing like in Firestarter, pyrokinetic kids or kids with special powers. I mean, they're definitely reminiscent. The plot wise, that's very similar. So,
but there's a lot of stuff in the 80s of that too. Mm-hmm. It was just in general, like it was like that movie The Sender, which came out a year later, had that. Remember that guy that had the he could like implant like nightmares in people's heads. Like that was a big thing back then, and people were like, it was kind of a scary prospect to where people would think that could happen, and it was a big deal, like that ESP or telepathy or any kind of telekinetic things that were going on. Like it was a big thing for horror films around then.
It was, if you think about it too, there were shows on television like That's Incredible that were doing all those, weird and In Search Of in the late 70s. So it had there was a big interest in stuff like that, ESP and psychic powers. That was all like much more than it is today. Like there was a big cryptids, and it was a lot of out there stuff that people were into. I mean, because I remember growing up with it. That's part of the reason I still love that stuff today, because I grew up reading those books and watching That's Incredible and watching In Search Of and stuff like that, and seeing those features.
Yeah, and it was done like in different genres. Like it was done comedically, it was done in horror, it was done in thrillers. It was like used in many ways, And so I think it was a prominent plot, and so I think this movie when it came out hit that perfect mix of it, of that like that just like frightening prospect of how it could have misused what the horrible outcomes it could bring.
The other thing I really thought about, Brian, when I was thinking of why did I like this movie so much, is if you think about it, it's kind of like a superhero movie, because you have your mortals, which have no powers, and then you have a guy that's basically the good guy who has superpowers, and then you have like a bunch of evil guys that have superpowers, and they're kind of battling each other. And if you kind of step back from it a little bit, this could almost be a superhero movie between two rival superpowers. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and they all like had like slightly different ways they could use it, like and they like, through the main character, the Stephen Lack, Cameron Vale's character, he, like, you were kind of, as the audience, like, learning the powers through him, like how he learned he could go through the phone and, like, and stuff like that, and, like, control the computer. So there was a lot of cool, like I thought it was a good way to, like, introduce things, and, like, how, how, like, you found out there were, like, little, like, groups of, like that followers of Michael Ironside, there was or Daryl Revik in the film, and or Revik, I guess, and then there was the Kim Obrist group that was like defecting and trying to stop from him, and and then you had like Cameron Vale was kind of in the middle, and he like he had to choose a side, and he chose the good side, and and then you find out that I'm not gonna. I mean, I guess we could. I mean, if you haven't seen this by now, I mean,
it's 40 years old.
Yeah. So and then you find out, of course, in again, like such a superhero type of twist, you find out that the guy that his mortal enemy turns out to be his brother, and his, and then he finds out his father was this evil guy, and so it's just a lot of cool. Like it does. Like now that you said that, there's like it's kind of like a really like ingenious way, like to do almost like a little superhero film if David Cronenberg did it.
Yeah.
I could say Cronenberg. Oh my God, I'm like thinking like the beer. But and it's kind of funny though. The one thing I have to say is though, the one thing that would always distract me is every time they would say Dr. Ruth, I'd want to go like, this is Dr. Ruth last timer. Like I wanted this like little like true. Lady to come out, but it was instead like a sleepy doctor dude. Didn't there one scene, I swear to God, I think he was like, did his eyes ever open when he was sitting in that like club in that lounge? He's just like, just come to me. I'm like, oh my God, is he awake? Wake up, dude.
That's called phoning it in for sure. No.
Yeah.
No, but one thing I thought was kind of a brilliant, I like the intro is really cool because you have like kind of a setup of what the scanner powers do. But you're kind of,
how cool was that mall, by the way?
Oh, the
my
mall
God,
was
that's
incredible,
like,
yeah.
That like brought me back to like everything I loved about the mall in my life was in that scene.
And I got to remind me of that when I talk about scanners too, by the way.
Okay.
And then the other thing I thought was pretty ingenious is that the famous head exploding scene comes very early in the movie.
Yeah.
Which you would think, that would be the climactic scene. But actually, I think what it does is serves to raise the stakes so high that for the rest of the movie, you're like kind of on edge because you don't know if somebody's head's going to explode again. It's almost like they punch you in the face, like David Cronenberg punches you in the face really early in the movie and says, this could happen. Like, I'm just telling you, this is the stakes we're looking at here. And it really, I was not expecting that scene to be at the beginning of the movie. I really wasn't. I was like, oh, that's probably the last scene in the movie. Did they do this?
And it's like the shock and awe, they want to establish Revik how bad and how evil he is, like right off the bat. And like they do it in like such spectacular fashion. That's like any kind of, it's almost like like Darth Vader entering the blockade runner, and like just choking out people like, okay, this is your villain. There are no doubts about that.
Yeah.
Who the villain is.
And how good was Michael Ironside? I mean, he's good in everything. But he's very young in this movie, or youngish. I guess as young as Michael Ironside could look.
Yeah, but he always kind of looks the same age.
Yeah, but he was so good in this, and I love him as a villain anyway. Whenever he
is why I was afraid of this Michael Ironside is why I was afraid of Michael Ironside growing up. Even in Starship Troopers, where he was like, he's like such a cool dude in it. Like, it took to that until I finally like said, okay, maybe he's not such a bad dude. Yeah. I can deal with Michael Ironside, because he's like he's so frightening in this, like at some level, and he's just got that permanent like eyebrow down villain look, and it's like, I'm sure he's a great guy in person, but it's like
he looks like he's always gonna scan you, like he's about to scan you at any moment. Yeah.
He had the perfect face for like when they had to scan and they had to make those facial expressions and everything. And
what's funny is I remember as a kid, and I'd never seen this movie, but apparently something in pop culture, like the whole scanning thing was something, because I remember like playing, like concentrating and like trying to kill people with my mind. Do you remember doing stuff like that? I just remember me and my brother playing stuff like where we were trying to like hurt each other with our minds and stuff. I just remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it was done in a lot of movies as,
Yeah.
like, in jest. So yeah, I don't know what, I know the things you're talking about, and I remember there was one movie where they were literally doing that. They were like looking at each other and they're going,
Yeah.
and they were like holding their
Yeah, hold
fingers
their
to their
temple,
temples. Yeah, I can't think of it right now. Anyone that's listening, like if you can remember, there was one specific like 80s comedy, I think, where they did that.
Well, there was a Jim Carrey sketch too, I swear, and I couldn't find it. I went to look it up. There was a sketch, I think it was on Saturday Night Live, where he did that, where he's like, "Scan me."
Oh yeah, what was it? Was it in Living Color? Maybe it's in Living Color.
It was the one where he does Ride the Snake.
Oh yeah,
I couldn't find it. I was looking it up, and I kept finding Jim Carrey Ride the Snake, but I never found the actual sketch. It could have been in Living Color. It was one of those. If you guys know it, tell us, because I'm trying to find it. But yeah, I just remember him going, "Scan me," and he's like scanning this guy. But yeah, it was. I mean, I loved it. I like the whole mythos of it. Like I think the whole concept is cool. That there's these very select group of people that are so all powerful that are kind of running around and they're kind of like waging war against each other. I'm gonna try to find this book. There's a book by Dan Simmons, who's a great author. He wrote he's written science fiction and he's written horror. He wrote one of my favorite books, which is The Terror, that AMC adapted. He wrote a book called Carrion Comfort. And in this novel, and I read this novel back in high school, and this novel was very similar in vein, where you had people that had these psychic powers, and I think it was, and I might be getting some of the details wrong because this has been a long time ago when I watched this, but I remember there was something about Nazis and stuff in it, so I think there was Germans fighting allies, but it was the same kind of thing, like they could control people with their mind. It wasn't like making their heads explode, but they could control them with their minds. So it was very similar. That book came out in '89, so it was kind of a little bit later than the movie, but that's a really good book if you ever want. I kind of need to go back and reread that because I remember that being like so adult when I read it. Like, oh my god, like I'm reading a serious adult novel right now. And I was probably like 15 or so when I read it.
And I think what I kind of like with this too is like this kind of adds like that level of frightening. Like, you know, it's like, okay, you know how you're gonna like fight a guy. Like if some guy comes at you with like a knife or a weapon, you know, you can dodge, you can evade, you could run. But like in this, it literally doesn't. They don't have to do anything other than like kind of like look at you and like a scowl, and then like you're finished. You know, it's like. So it gives you that fear, like, oh shoot, if these people really existed and they were coming after me, forget it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I guess I guess I'll go ahead and talk about Scanners 2, because I'm not going to go into a deep dive of it. But I decided to watch Scanners 2 just because I kind of wanted more of this whole mythos. I kind of liked the whole premise. So I took a chance on this one. Scanners 2 came out in '91, so it was 10 years later. And this one went straight to video. So it did not come out in theaters, and it's called Scanners 2: The New Order is the official title. But it's actually not that bad. And the reason why it's not that bad is because they basically just cloned Scanners. They didn't try to do anything crazy. They basically kept the same premise. So you've got another good guy. He's what they call a clean scanner. So he hasn't really been corrupted yet. He's not really quite aware of his powers yet. So they know they can get him on the good side. And this one involves it's a corrupt police commander who is using the scanners to like take control of the city. So he's like forcing the scanners into like manipulating the mayor so that she enacts this law or that law. So it was kind of dived a little bit more into what the uses of these people could be if you were truly evil. And then there's another scene where a couple of the evil scanners were using it to like rob a place. So it kind of expanded that piece of it out a little bit more about what you could do with your powers if you were amoral. But you got the same thing. You got a woman that's also on his side that's kind of helping him out, and he's kind of discovering his powers. The beginning of the movie literally takes place in an arcade. So,
yeah.
So just like the mall, when I was telling you to remind me earlier, this one takes place in an arcade where he trashes the arcade. So, I mean, they basically did not stray too far at all. That's kind of actually what made it pretty entertaining. Again, it is a ripoff. I'm not going to lie. It's almost a direct clone, but having liked the first one, I kind of like the second one as well. Obviously not as good because it's not David Cronenberg, but they did, there was more kills. There was more scanning overall.
Well, it's a sequel. You got to double down on the scans.
Definitely a higher abundance of scanning. But they did. This
time they double-sided the scans.
Yeah, it's duplexed. But I was waiting. I was like, they've got to have a head exploding scene in this. There's no way they're going to make Scanners 2 and not put a head exploding scene in this. And of course they did.
Nice.
Technically, it's probably as good. I mean, it looks as good, but it's not as impactful because A, it comes way later in the movie, and B, it's highly telegraphed. So, the first head explode in Scanners 1 is kind of catches you a little bit off guard, partly because you don't know the whole premise yet. Whereas in the sequel, man, I was literally waiting for the head exploding scene, and they're like, "Oh, okay, here it is. This has got to be it."
Yeah, and plus, the first one was so iconic. You're never gonna we've seen heads explode before, but everyone goes back to that one, because I don't think people have seen something of that caliber, at least at that time period. So
yeah. Now I have not watched Scanners 3 yet. Scanners 3 is that was 1992, which tells you how good it is because it was only a year later.
Yeah.
And this one is the same director and screenwriter. So I'm expecting Scanners 3 will probably be very similar. This one has a heroine instead of a hero, female scanner. From what little I know of the plot, that it centers around her. So I will watch that one at some point. And then there's these other. The final Scanners is Scanners the Showdown. That's what it is. And this one was 1995. And okay, that's right. Okay, so there was a spinoff called Scanner Cop.
Yeah, and I remember that. I didn't realize that was part of it.
Yeah, that's a spinoff. And then Scanners the Showdown is technically Scanner Cop 2. It's the sequel to Scanner Cop.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it's technically the fifth film, not the fourth.
Gotcha.
But anyway,
okay.
They're probably. I'm sure they're going downhill fast. But I would say give Scanners 2 a shot. It's not terrible. It's not terrible.
What service is it on currently?
It's on Prime now, so it's very easy to get.
Cool.
Yeah. And I think Scanners 3 is on Prime as well, so I'll catch that one sometime this week, probably. But
Tim's just gonna scan his way through life now.
I love it. I love the scanner thing. I like the whole. I like I like scanning. I want to be a scanner. But I guess we should go through some of the trivia here for this one.
Yeah, there's a lot, so we'll just pick a couple.
Yeah, there's some crazy long ones in here too, which we won't go through.
Oh, here it goes. So a very early treatment from 1976 entitled Telepathy 2000 takes place in the future, begins with the protagonist who is named Harley Quinn. Funny, right?
Okay.
Telepathically raping a woman in a subway and set in a spy movie. In this version, a company called Cytodyne Amalgamate was breeding evil scanners to take over the world, and the U.S. government. Take over the world, and the U.S. government was employing good scanners to stop them. So it kind of a little different take on it. I mean, same kind of basic plot of that you have a company that's kind of the bad scanners, and then there's the good scanners. Out there trying to stop it. So at least the heart of it seems to be the same. It just seems like it would have been a different twist on it.
Well, if you think about it, this doesn't have to be a horror movie. If you take away the gore and the body horror, this could be a spy movie, really.
Yeah.
This one is really interesting. When we were talking about the head exploding scene, it says David Cronenberg moved the head explosion from the beginning of the film for late moviegoers, so they didn't miss it. So he actually had it earlier in the film than it already is, which I already thought it was in there fairly early. So he probably had that as the first demonstration of what it could do, which, talk about an impact. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been some opening. Yeah. But I think I like it the way it is because you get that cool opening mall sequence where you're not quite sure what's going on yet, and you're not sure who the, if that guy is, Cameron is a villain yet, or is he just a guy that doesn't understand what happened, and then then you're introduced to the real villain. So it's kind of like a double hit. So whether he meant that impact on the movie, or he just wanted to, or if he literally just didn't want people to miss it, either way, it works well. Like I think it's
Yeah.
a much better placement for that.
Yeah.
Oh, so here's a good thing. Like I didn't even know about this, but it says the drug ephemeral bears an eerie similarity to the real life scandal in the late 1950s, as women who had taken thalidomide during pregnancy. Oh, is that how you say it?
Thalidomide. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's right. Hospital guy there over Tim. During pregnancy, it says marketed as relief for morning sickness and began to give birth to children suffering from focal or other physical deformities. So, I mean, there's been a lot of drugs that actually, have led to birth defects. So, but like this one was obviously a big story. At the time.
Well, see, you got to know your Billy Joel, Brian. We didn't start the fire. He says children. He says children of thalidomide.
That's right.
Yeah.
He does say that. I don't think I ever knew what that line meant.
Yeah, that's what it is. That's what he's referring to.
Day.
Yeah. This one I liked because this one, if you're a horror fan, you should probably know this one. I actually knew this before the trivia, having never seen the movie because I've watched so many horror documentaries. Yeah. And that was the effect for the exploding head scene was accomplished by filling a latex head of the actor with dog food, leftover lunch, fake blood, and rabbit livers, and shooting it from behind with a 12-gauge shotgun. Now, I can understand on set maybe having dog food, definitely having leftover lunch, and definitely having fake blood. I don't know where they got the rabbit livers from, but more power.
I think Night of the Lepus was filmed in the studio before that. So.
Yeah, but apparently they couldn't get the effect to work, so finally they said, "Screw it, we're just going to blow his head off with a shotgun." They had the whole crew run to get under cover, and then they just blew it from behind with a shotgun. So that was.
I'll tell you, it like worked then. It still works now. I think. I don't think it loses any kind of impact being so many years later, and we've seen tons of effects now.
Yeah,
but I still think that's
it's a classic,
a really good one. I think we're good on the thing. Most of the stuff you can find on IMDb anyway. So
yeah, let's get right to our beer pairing. I can't wait to hear what you got for this one, Brian.
So I think you'll like this one, Tim. This is by Mason's Brewing Company out of Brewer, Maine, which already is awesome, right? Brewer, Maine. And it's called Psychic Warfare.
Well,
it's 6%. Yep, right. I couldn't find anything better than that. It says a pale ale brewed with Maine malts and hopped with El Dorado and Mosaic, hazy and juicy with notes of citrus. So the beer seems very pleasant for something called Psychic Warfare, but I mean, I don't know a better sounding title for this movie than Psychic Warfare. I think that one's pretty epic.
Yeah, that sounds good. Maybe if you drink enough of them, your head explodes. Who knows? Yeah. All right, so our triple threat for last week, we were looking for an actor or actress, and this is an actor that I absolutely adore. My brother absolutely adores him. Somebody that I loved growing up, that I've heard nothing but good things about.
Yeah, my friend Mark just met him a couple of years ago. He was actually at Disney World, and he walked out of the hotel, and he was walking in.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, so he got to see him. He took a picture with him. It's pretty cool.
So we are talking about Warwick Davis, who, of course, was the star of he was in Star Wars, he was in Willow, one of my favorite movies, Willow. So, clue number 1. I've starred in 3 movie franchises that have had more than 7 films each.
That's crazy, if you think about that.
Yeah. So, of course, he had roles in the Star Wars franchise as multiple characters. He had the Harry Potter series as Professor Flitwick and Griphook, and, of course, the Leprechaun series of films as the title character in 6 of those 8 films.
Yeah. So. That is crazy. He's been in 3 franchises that had so many films each.
And can you imagine being in Star Wars and Harry Potter? I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
2 of the biggest IPs on the planet.
I mean, there's a couple of people that share that distinction, but I mean, not as much as he has. I mean, he's been in like multiple movies of each one, so.
Yeah, apparently his Twitter game is very strong. My brother is always talking about how great he is on Twitter. Clue number 2, I had a starring role in a classic 80s adventure film and will be reprising that role in an upcoming series of the same name. We're, of course, talking about Willow, and I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, this is going to be cool.
Warwick, of course, played the title character in Willow and will reprise the role in the upcoming 2022 series. And if you guys didn't know it, there was actually a series of Willow novels that took place after the movie that came out back in the day that I read. That was kind of cool. Like, they continued the story through these novels.
Yeah. Oh, and it's funny too because do you remember Willow actually had some decent tie-ins to other things too? Like, do you remember there was the Willow arcade game?
Yes.
Because I remember because there was this one when my friend Mark and I first started getting back into collecting action figures. It was I remember he had I was away. It was over the summer, and he had discovered a toy convention in the city, and he's like, oh my God, I went there and they had all these old Star Wars figures, and I'm like, you really? They still had them? So we started to really start to go back and look at some of the old ones. This is before the new ones came back out again. So there was we looked around, and there wasn't a lot of collectible stores and stuff like there is now, and definitely wasn't online presence way back when this happened. But we found there was this comic book store that had opened up nearby, and we called it Hairy Chest Guy, because this guy always seemed to wear one of these polo shirts with like a whole head of hair coming out of his out of the neckline, you know. And he was like, I don't understand how this guy stayed in business, because every time we went in there, he's like, all right, what do you want? Like, I mean, like totally surly. And like one time I walked in and I knocked over something, and he goes, "Oh, great," you know, like really like nasty. But the point I'm getting to is, so Hairy Chest Guy. We walked in one time, and he would always have like some kind of like distraction in there. At one point, he literally just out of nowhere appeared the Willow arcade game in the back, and he was playing it. And we're in there, so we walk in, and guy, whatever we were trying to buy. He also had some cool old videos sometimes. So I went and bought some old video bootleg thing of something. And I went up and I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm ready to go. He goes, all right, give me a second. This guy played like 40 straight minutes of this frickin' Willow arcade game while we're waiting there to check out. And it's like,
oh my God,
dude, you know, what the hell, man? And he's like still playing this like Willow arcade game for like 40 minutes. And I don't know what happened. His store closed eventually, and he disappeared. We didn't see him for a while. But maybe he's like hiding somewhere with his Willow arcade game.
Well, they have the Nintendo version too, remember?
Oh, they did, yeah.
Yeah, I used to rent that all the time and play it. So
that's right. I forgot about it. Oh, that was a fun game too.
There was actually a lot of tie-ins. They had a role play, like a board game, Willow board game. Remember, I got
the action figures.
Well, yeah, and they had the action. Well, remember, I bought my brother for Christmas the other year the Willow board game. I found it on eBay.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, he had a lot of good stuff. I love that movie. And clue number 3, I made appearances in a popular attraction for Disney parks and also at Universal Studios Florida. And as you might guess, that ties in with the Star Wars and Harry Potter IPs. Warwick made a cameo appearance in the original Star Tours attraction at several Disney parks as Wicket and as Grip Hook and Escape from Gringotts at Universal Studios Florida.
Right, like he just like goes from IP to IP. He has no qualms at which company he works for. It's great. Love that dude.
All right, so this week we're looking for an actor or actress. Here are your clues. Listen closely. Clue number 1, including announced and in production titles, I have over 200 credits, primarily horror films. Of course, we're talking about IMDb credits.
Yeah.
Clue number 2, I am directing and starring in a sequel to a movie I starred in the 80s. And clue number 3, I was on the cover of the premiere issue of the now defunct American Men's Magazine that focused on film and television actresses.
This is a tricky one. I think it could be definitely solved, but I think it's actually vague enough clues that like you gotta be a little in the know, I think, to get this one.
Yeah, this one could be a little tricky. Yeah,
because there's a lot of people that kind of fit this bill.
Yeah.
So, except there's one clue in there that's kind of definitive.
Yeah, clue number 2 I think is pretty definitive.
Yeah, and when 3 too. I mean, at some level, because you know, if you figure out what magazine it is, there's only one answer.
All right, so we have another fantastic listener question from our buddy David McHugh, horror mailman, for our fan topic food section. This one is most interesting documentary you have seen.
So, I mean, I guess he means, when he means like, it's not like favorite documentary.
Not necessarily just interesting. I went the other way. I mean, I went ahead and I'm going to establish my ground rules, Brian. You can do whatever you want. I decided to shy away from horror documentaries.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew that was obvious. And 2, I decided to go with my 5 of my favorite documentaries. Just to talk about them, because I thought it was an interesting topic to talk about. Although I would say only one of these I would consider like interesting in like a weird and unusual way. Like the other ones they're not necessarily weird and unusual. They're great documentaries, but there's one that's actually really bizarre. And I did also limit myself to one true crime documentary because if I didn't, I would be here all night because I love true crime documentaries. So, but I'll let you go first if you have one in mind.
Well, you know what? Even though this is a horror podcast, you know, this question always likes to inspire other topics. So, you know what? I'll stay away from horror, too, because I think horror would be too easy. Because right off the top of my head, of course, the In Search of Darkness series, the film noir ones, the Al Adams ones specifically, I just recently watched it. I absolutely love. So I'll stay away from that, too. So I think two that come to mind was one, which is Hearts of Darkness, that one about Apocalypse Now, which is a really great documentary.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I thought that was fascinating because when I first saw that, like, you know, it was a really long documentary. It was really like entailed, and I was like, I remember when I first saw it, I wasn't really into documentaries at that time to see it, so I was like, wow, I really like this. This is really cool. And I was in film school at the time when I saw it, so it was like really made an impact at the time. And then another one that I'm gonna stay, I think, because I don't want to go into too much of all the different other ones, but one that stood out and I love it, and I watch it over and over again. And that one, I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Starweight.
No, I have not.
Okay, so what Starweight is, I don't know if you remember this. It started this group. It was there was a charity, the Starlight Foundation, and there was a when Phantom Menace was announced, they had a thing that was called liningup.net. And it was a site where they'd line up like 6 weeks before Star Wars The Phantom Menace on a line for the Mann's Chinese Theater to, like, you know, and they made this whole big line, and you could donate, and, you know, you got hours. It was almost like a telethon or a walkathon, you know, where how many hours you got, that's how much money you would make for the Starlight Foundation. Anyway, so when Attack of the Clones came out, they decided to make a documentary on this group that did that. And so it's, you know, there's a couple of funny characters in there that they focus on and main things, but it's from when they start, like, it's like a documentary that goes through the whole time period when they actually have one other after this I'll go through. And so it's like, it's just, for some reason, I love it. It's so fun because it shows them, like, how they camp out and like have meals, like, there, and then like and like it's when the tickets finally get announced, and it's funny because it's early on when you know, you could buy internet tickets somewhat reliably. And I remember there's a guy there, they said we find out that literally if you just call the phone company, they will install a telephone line anywhere. So they literally got a telephone and internet line installed on the line outside waiting for this thing. And it's like they have like Elijah Wood one day visits the line, and they show people like calling, and it's just a really cool documentary on how this group came together, and they like all know each other, and they just hang out, and they have fun, and there's some kind of heated moments, and it's such a fun documentary. You gotta watch it. I mean, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, if you're just any kind of fan of like events that camaraderie, like, it reminds me of some of our Slack events a little bit, you know, like this group comes together for an event, and it's just really, really cool. And I remember buying it. It was like $5, and it came out the day Revenge of the Sith came out. I'm sorry, the day Revenge of the Sith merchandise came out. That's what it was. And I mean, so I have it on DVD, and I've watched this thing like, I'd say easily like 50 times, like, especially right when a new Star Wars movie was coming out, is one of the ones I'd always pop in and just watch it. And the disc actually has a bonus feature for like a little mini doc for when they did it for Revenge of the Sith, but like a lot of people, I guess, didn't participate as much, so it was like a really quick little thing, and it's kind of like a Where Are They Now kind of documentary.
Yeah,
I highly recommend that. And then one final one I'll do. I mean, I guess this counts as a documentary, but the one, and I know you love this one too, and this is going to totally make us sound extra cheesy, but people know us by now. And that's My Date with Drew.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
Because that's another one I can watch over and over again. And for those who don't know, it's literally about this guy. He wins, like, $1,100 on a game show. And he's always had a crush on Drew Barrymore, and Drew Barrymore is the answer to the final question that got him his $1,100. So he decided to spend that money to give himself 30 days to get a date with Drew Barrymore. And it's just so much fun, and it's like it's just a really like lighthearted, fun documentary, and you get to see his like trials and tribulations, and he's like a weird kind of dude. Like you're like sometimes rooting for him, and sometimes you're like, well, he's kind of annoying.
Yeah,
but it's still like. He's still. I'm sorry, I'm like cracking up because I'm thinking of the one scene in there. But what's so great is like, you really like you end up in the end like happy for her and root for him to have him try and succeed his task. So that's another one that kind of popped in as I was thinking about this.
Yeah, I have several. One that I had one kind of pop in when you said that. That was the King of Kong, which is the one.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right.
That's a great one.
Oh yeah, and all those video game docs I just saw too. That you're right.
Yeah.
Oh God, we could go on forever with this.
Yeah,
so.
Those are great. So if you haven't seen King of Kong, it's about the guys competing to set the Donkey Kong world record. And there's another one I can't remember what it's called, but they're trying to break the snake world record. I can't.
Yeah, and there's the one. Did you see the one where they're all hunting to get all the Nintendo games?
Yeah, that one was good too. So yeah, I could go.
One.
I could do a top 5 video game documentaries on my.
Yeah, I basically love quest documentaries too. Anything where there's like it starts at one thing and the documentary is trying to follow someone through a quest.
Yeah,
those to me
good.
are like that's like shut up and take my money. Like you throw that in front of me, I don't care what the damn quest is, I'll watch it.
So the 5 I've got on here. The first one up is this one might be my favorite out of all of these.
I like this one too.
Free Solo, and this is about the guy.
Kind of disturbing in a lot of ways.
It's
too.
terrifying. I can't imagine seeing this in the theater. I didn't see it in the theater, but this one's about Alex Honnold, who was a famous, or he still is a famous solo mountain climber. And when I say solo, no ropes, no nothing. This is pure like chalk on your hands, and that's it.
This like made me actually it made me uncomfortable watching it. But I loved it.
Yeah.
At the same time,
And it's about his quest to climb El Capitan in Yosemite National Park, 900-meter mountain with no safety equipment. And it is, oh my God, this is the most terrifying documentary. It's amazing. It's amazing what they pulled off because they had to film this guy and not interfere and make him fall. One mistake and he falls to his death.
Yeah.
This entire documentary. It was, oh my God, heart pounding. The other one, this one actually is frightening. The Bridge. This one's about the suicides on the Golden Gate Bridge.
Oh, I think I've seen this one actually.
Yeah,
you said that.
They filmed the Golden Gate Bridge.
Or I've seen one about it. Maybe it's not this one, but I've seen something on it.
Yeah, they filmed the Golden Gate Bridge for however many days and just filmed everybody that attempted suicide or successfully committed suicide off of the bridge. So it's very disturbing because you do see people jumping off the bridge, but it's also really kind of fascinating too. The other one here I loved was Hero Dreams of Sushi. This one's about a little tiny sushi restaurant in Japan who is owned by this guy named Hiro, who has basically dedicated his entire life to making perfect sushi, and it became like this like world renowned sushi place to go to. But even if you're not into sushi, this documentary is utterly fascinating because it shows a person literally dedicating their entire life to one thing and becoming perfect at it, basically. It's so interesting. It rises above like the level of sushi. It's not really about that. It's about one person dedicating their entire life to one single craft, and it's really, really good.
I mean, for me, I think I dedicate my life to eating sushi.
Yeah, but, me too.
Document me on that.
The true crime one I threw in here is one of my favorites. Is called The Staircase, and this is about Michael Peterson, who was accused of killing his wife, and he claims that she fell down the stairs. And let me tell you, I believe this guy's guilty as sin, personally, after seeing this documentary. But it's neat because it's actually not a documentary from the prosecution side. It's actually a documentary from the defense side. So you're seeing Michael Peterson and his defense attorneys. It's a really, really gripping case. And it's had several updates after the original documentary. So there's like other episodes that were tacked on to it to give you updates on what happened. And it's just a bizarre story. So if you track that one down, The Staircase is really, really good.
I have to say that when you said Michael Peterson, all I could think of is Rooney. This is Sergeant Peterson. Yes.
No, this guy was like an author, and yeah, I don't know. I think guy's guilty of sin personally, but that's just me. That's just my opinion. The last one I saved, I wouldn't say this was I'd say this was definitely the weakest of all these documentaries. This one's actually not even necessarily a good documentary, but it probably most fits the question for most interesting. And it's called Finders Keepers. And it's literally about a man who bought an old grill and found a leg in it. A human leg.
What?
A mummified human leg in it. And come to find out, this leg did not belong to a dead person. It belonged to an amputee who kept the leg.
What?
And mistakenly sold it in this grill. So it's a documentary about the quest for the amputee to get his leg back. And the guy bought the grill saying, no, I bought the leg fair and square. And he's making money off it because he's charging admission for people to come see it.
What? That's like the Jerky Boys thing, remember? Remember the guy who goes, man, my mother capped off a leg with the haysicle. Yeah, we can put a turnstile there and they come see the leg. That's what that reminds me of.
That's basically what it is. It's called Finders Keepers. It's crazy.
Oh my God. Actually, and to another thing, it's kind of, you're gonna find it funny how I got from that to this, but another one I forgot over the summer I watched was the Class Action Park.
Oh my gosh, yes, that was great.
Which you gotta, and actually we need to get Steve Cohn on again because he has his own personal Class Action Park story. It's funny. I gotta show you my shirt my brother got me too for the holidays. It's like a retro, kind of like those weird baseball jersey type of thing, tees with like the colored arms. That's an old retro Action Park logo shirt.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
Yeah, I could go on I love documentaries. I watch them all the time.
Yeah, well, you got me to watch that other one. I just watched Fake Famous.
Yeah.
Which was pretty interesting, and Tim and I realized we're not even good enough to be fake famous.
No, we're like fake famous.
Yeah, we're like fake famous.
I'm watching the QAnon documentary now, which is frightening.
Yeah, I just started that too. How scary is that?
There's a great one about and I don't remember the names of some of these, so you have to track them down. But there's a great one about how the McDonald's Monopoly game was rigged.
Oh, McMillions. Yeah, that's like that 6-part one.
Yeah,
that one was really good. Julie and I got so invested in that, and it was normally we usually end up watching these things like after the fact, like after we've heard about it, and so we binge it. Well, I thought it was only one episode, like it was one movie, so we watched it and we're like, oh, this is awesome, and then realized no, it's like a 6-part thing, and we had to wait each week, and it was like killing us. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
It's like Julie hates those week to week things. She likes to watch everything all in one shot, and
that's a great one though. Yeah, there was one I watched about the guy that perfectly guessed the showcase on The Price is Right. Because what he would do is he was like a super contestant. Like he would go apply for Price is Right every week. And he had a database and had cataloged the prices of every item that they had on the show. So when he went on the show, he knew when he finally got a chance to be a contestant, he knew the exact price of everything. And he it's not cheating. He was just doing his research. So he had memorized like years of show prices. And when he got on the show, he actually ended up calculating the price of the final showdown down to the dollar, to the point they thought he cheated, and there was this big scandal. But yeah, he was just like one of those super game show. I like game show documentaries too, so don't get me started on that. So yeah,
yeah. There was the what was the other? Well, I know this is kind of hard, but it's also like a true crime thing. Was that CREEPSHOW one was really good too?
Yeah, that one was good. I mean, my God, I just watched so many documentaries.
You know what I like about documentaries are things that, I know this sounds kind of like I'm like almost like not giving them true credit, but they're ones that you can I think you can put on while you're doing other things sometimes. They're very good audibly a lot of times.
Yeah.
So a lot of times instead of putting on if I caught up with my podcast or something at work, I'll put on a cool documentary in the background to listen to sometimes. And if there's something that seems really cool, I'll catch my eye, because a good documentary is good on both fronts, like what they're saying and what they're showing. In fact, more so the
audio is probably the audio is probably more important in those.
So I think that's one of the things I love about documentaries like that, is because you can watch them at any time and kind of put them on as background background stuff and still gain everything from it, you know?
And you and Cone know that how much I love cult documentaries, so we won't even go down that rabbit hole either. So
yeah, no, we'll be here all night with Tim and his cults.
Did you see that?
Julie watched the cult ones at the.
Did you see that that Saturday Night Live sketch song where they were talking about murder shows and cult shows? I was like, oh my god, that fits me to a T. Oh, it's scary how accurate that is.
No, but I forgot. I should have posted this in our Slack group. Did you see the sketch they did at Worlds of Fun? The SNL sketch?
Oh, yeah.
That was, oh my god, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
That was one of the funny things. Because how many times have you done that where you've had an odd person and like, you know, so you like to switch it around so everyone gets to ride with someone at one point and he gets stuck with it.
That was like a sketch we would have come up with.
It is like, how is that like? And the fact that they used World of Fun, but they said because it was like really made because he was a fan of Worlds of Fun when they wrote it. So it's
really?
Funny.
That's funny.
Yeah, I wonder if Nathan saw that. Slater. We need to let him. We gotta make sure he saw that.
All right, guys. Well, we will be back here next week with another fun movie, another listener question, another beer pairing, and I don't know what we're gonna do yet, Brian.
No, we're bad at this. Remember at one point where we were like already prepared for the.
Oh yeah, we're like flying by the seat of our pants now, but it's kind of fun though because we're coming up with just crazy movies that it's kind of been a little more spontaneous, which I like. So,
and what's crazy is we're like less than 20 episodes away now from our 200th episode. So yeah, I can't speak tonight. 200 episode, and I'm already started to like get some preliminary ideas. I want to make this special. I know we have one thing in the works. That I'm not even going to say who's helping us with it because that'll spoil it. But yeah, we have a couple of good things, and we're going to probably in the next couple of weeks too. We might announce some ways to help us and participate in it too.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to make this one really fun because we have a couple of movie ideas for it. But I think more importantly, I want this. 200 episodes is a pretty big deal now. It's like. We've been around a while now, and that's like I kind of want to make this like a honor the history of the show in it too.
Yeah, and also we got our April disc memorette coming up. That one's that should drop on April 6th because that's the first actual Tuesday in April.
Yeah, because April 1st is like a Thursday, right? I think.
So we try to get it out at least on or before the first day of releases. So that'll be April 6th. Which April, I'm going to tell you right now, spoiler alert. Really short. It's not a big month for horror Blu-rays. So yeah, the Easter Bunny did not bring a lot of horror this year for April.
I think in like the couple of things that were coming out, I think I've already ordered. Already.
Yeah. So, but anyway, look for that one the week of
May's
April
a good
6th.
month though. I know May is good because I have a lot of pre-orders for May already.
Yeah, May's probably gonna make up for it. It'll be big.
Oh yeah.
All right, guys.
My birthday month. How great.
Well, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you back here next week.
See you later. I'm scanning you, Tim.
Scan me.